Well, it's 7:02, so let's call this meeting to order. This is June 11th, 2022, the Bristol Selectboard meeting. Uh, Number one, review agenda for addition, removal, or adjustment of any items this evening.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. Item two, overview of Zoom meeting operation and procedures, rules for participation. Everyone please mute their microphones and be recognized by myself, the chair, if you wish to speak. Number two, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone joining us via Zoom or in person to speak about a matter that's not on this evening's agenda. And I think there are only 3 people in the offices there, and let me just take a quick peeky here. Nope, I don't see anybody there. Okay, we shall move on. Department head roundtable. Let's start with Sharon, the town clerk.
Okay, the election is less than a month away. We finally got approval for the local Starksboro vote to leave the school district. So we're moving along with that. Our new hire, Stephanie Curtis, started last week, 4 days, and she'll be here Tuesday through Fridays, normally this summer.
Right.
And she's got a lot floating around in her head. So she's kind of overloaded by Friday. And then it's just the normal everyday stuff that's coming up. The water bills payments are coming in. We got our first tranche for the homestead payments, which is a good thing because we have quite a large accounts payable this week. So just going along. That's all I got.
Can you give us a little bit of the election details, the date and times and all that? I know people know.
It's
but
already
just a
on the
reminder.
website. I've already posted the warning. I've posted the ballots for everything. It's on August 9th. Which is a Tuesday,
Okay.
7 to 7. And there will be the Vermont primary plus the local election, which will be a hand count and not used for the tabulator.
For the local, is it the only thing on the ballot, the Starksboro, or do we have others?
Yes. Nope. That's it.
Okay.
Just the Starksboro one.
So local and primary. And then absentee ballots, people can get those from
They
the
already
office.
have. I have 6 pages full already that have been
Right.
mailed out. Plus, I've got to do the local out because they weren't ready when the Vermont primary ballots were ready because they don't have to be. So
Okay.
I've got to do a second tranche.
And you probably recommend that people mail at least a week before the Tuesday, right? If they want to
At
get them
least,
back.
but I've got quite a few back in my ballot box, which a lot of people do instead of mailing
Okay.
them back.
Right. Ballot box right outside the
Yeah.
town offices, 24 hours a day. You can drop your ballot
Right.
there. And again, that needs to be before the end of day on
Monday, the 8th.
on Monday. Okay.
Yeah, by 4:30. And
Okay.
then we'll be locking down the ballot box.
Okay.
So they'll have to bring them upstairs.
On the Tuesday.
Right.
Okay. Great. Any questions for Sharon from the board? Okay. Thank you very much, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the police department. Bruce.
Thank you. So the fireworks and 4th of July, overall things went well. It was good to see people out and about. Although we were a little short on volunteers, I think we did a pretty good job of handling things. And I want to thank those that assisted us in making sure that our barricades are set up as we were walking during the parade. Our speed radar signs that display our speed on West Street and East Street are getting a lot of attention. We're getting requests from other agencies on how to purchase them. Hearing from the public each time that I can't thank Josh enough for changing the message every couple of weeks. That is doing a great job of slowing people down. Most people only go 32 just to see what the other message says. But, those things, great investment, and I'm hoping that we can get another one on the next round of grants. Other than that, the weather is warmer, people are out, speeds are up, and we are trying to get out a little more for traffic enforcement.
So you mentioned that getting an additional sign. Where would you put that? Do you have an idea yet?
I would like to replace the one on North Street with a new one that we can change the message, like the one on East and West Street.
Okay. Could we repurpose that older sign, or would we sell that? Are there opportunities for that?
There's other areas in town that I think we can use the other one.
Okay, great. Any questions for Bruce from the board?
Yeah, Bruce, just on speed signs, how the carts coming?
We have one that I just haven't had time to get out there. I was actually looking at bringing it over and putting it in Main Street in your yard.
Go ahead, there's electrical right there on the pole.
Okay.
Great. Great. Thank you very much, Bruce. Meredith, Recreation Department.
Right. So the 4th of July was amazing. Our crew was out there. Sorry, I have dogs in the background barking. But the 4th of July was great. I think most everybody that I've heard from really liked our float. It was the 20 mountain bikers that were going off the ramp. So that was great. Our summer camps are happening. We have clay camp, swim camp this week, and the hub Make It Break It camp. And then this Thursday we have movies in the park. It's the Star Wars movie. And we also have the 501 Legion. So those are the dress up characters that come to the park. So I'm hoping for Darth Vader, but I'm not sure if he'll show up. So that's exciting. Had a great free pickleball clinic last Saturday. The pickleball scene over at the rec club tennis courts it's just blowing up. There's so many people who want to play pickleball, and it's a nice, fun sport. And it's not like tennis where you're running the whole court. Now you're just kind of running half the court. So that's pretty neat. And then we have 4 possible candidates for the coordinator position, and Taylor and I will be setting up interview processes next week.
Fantastic. How has anyone been using the backboard that was put in on the tennis courts?
I haven't seen anybody use them yet, but that's, the backboard is usually for someone who's waiting for their friends to show up and
Right.
play. So it's great. It looks good. The rec club is planning on either staining it green or some other color, so it kind of hides that wood look.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions for Meredith?
Hey Meredith, how about your stations that you put in? Any comments on them?
Yeah, so the stations are set. I set up 3.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, digging the 4 feet to put those posts in is a lot of work. And a big shout out to Bob Allmeter. Wow. I mean, he took a boulder out. So like the size of a cow head. It was gigantic. So, but it's great. We've got a few people using it. So, it's a success. I just need to finish up with a laminated how to use the station. And then hopefully we can plan for more later on, like at the school and also across possibly at the business loop, the fire station loop.
Great. What about the water bottle filling station? How's that working?
That gets used every day. Probably when we run our camps there, the water bottle station is being used by 15 kids, and then the pickleball folks are using it. So that was a huge success. It still is a success.
And it looks like it's staying in pretty good condition too, which is nice.
Yeah, we insulate it in the winter and then put like a plant covering over it just so the elements don't beat down on it.
Great. Excellent. Any other questions for Meredith? Okay. Thank you very much, Meredith. Let's do Brett, Fire Department.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? A couple of updates for you all. Update on the town's new pumper. So the update we received a week ago is it is still on scheduled to be delivered in September, which is great news. It has gone to the paint booth. So I don't really know where that's at in the process, but they're telling us it's going to be ready in September. So I have high hopes that it, in fact, will be ready in September. I know we're looking forward to taking that delivery. I know Anthony had posed a question about when the town could expect to be invoiced. And Anthony, if you're on listening, I have reached out to Eric Foran to inquire what we can expect as far as that final invoice, you know, after we take delivery. So working on that answer. Putting together the last pieces of information for FEMA's audit of the Assistance to Firefighters grant that we received in 2019. We got a deadline of July 15th on that. Our call volume, we're currently at 76 calls for service to date. Boy, I tell you, I know a few firefighters that are on the phone here, but we respond a lot to motor vehicle crashes at the intersection of South 116 and River Road. It's just amazing how that volume continues to rise each year. We've probably been there 6 times already this year. People just don't make the corner. It's anyway, thought that was worth noting. On the lighter side, 4th of July activities. So the fire department, we provided standby coverage for the fireworks. We were asked and were able to fill the dunking booth at their recreation field on the 3rd, and then again on the park on the 4th. We obviously participated in the parade. Everybody seemed to have a good time. It was kind of good to be back and see people out there. The flag project is at the fire station is complete. I think since the last board meeting, we put down the grass seed and got that all hayed. So I have many thank yous to send out. Many people were very generous with donations, and plus all the firefighters that donated their time to perform this work. So, but I think it looks really great if you haven't seen it. And for those of you who don't know, the Bristol Fire Department, we are a car seat, child passenger safety seat fitting station, and very busy. Seem to be averaging about 3 installations a week. So but we are one of 2 active fitting stations in the county. So we get a lot of business. Unless anybody has any questions, those are my updates.
Great. Thank you, Brett. Any questions for Brett from the board? All right. Thank you very much, Brett. And let's move on to Public Works. Eric, you're in the office there.
Yep.
Can't see ya.
That's all right. Just pretend I've got a black screen. Painting is all done. We finished that up today, so all our stops and advanced stops and crosswalks and everything are all done. Thank you very much. Let's see what else. Oh, update on our new truck, the 450. Unfortunately, when it was up to Viking, they wired up something wrong and potentially ended up burning up the wiring harness. So it is now at G-Stones, and it's been there since last Monday. So they are checking it out, and if it does need a new wiring harness, they don't quite know when they're going to get it. And then of course when they plug it in, they're going to put it on a computer to make sure it didn't burn anything else up. And if it did, they'll cover that as well. And then they'll cover it for a period of time afterwards, in case something else potentially comes up down the road because of that instance. Tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on the weather, definitely Wednesday, we're going to be shouldering Plank Road and Moncton Road where we paved. And we're continuing on roadside mowing, getting that done. That's the gist of it.
Okay.
I guess.
Excellent. Thank you. I have a couple questions. I haven't looked, but did you stripe the going across the Prince Lane areas, or is that up to Parmelo? I can't remember if you guys do it or if Parmelo does.
That's Pomelos.
Okay.
You mean inside the?
Well, I guess it'll be a continuation of the sidewalk, right, on each of those. I think you've striped them in the past, I thought.
No, we've never striped in there before.
Not in, but continuing the sidewalk.
Yeah, we did by North Street side, we did that one.
Okay.
Going across the entrance there, that one is striped.
Is the one by the bank striped too?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
So it's
Yes.
it's probably just the stop line then inside their land or their drive.
Stop line where?
On the inside of that. Do you guys do that or do they do that? I know they do some, like inside, like the crosswalks, but it was just on our
Yeah.
sidewalks.
No, we didn't do any stop bars by the sidewalk.
Okay.
Where we striped.
But you striped the sidewalk on the east side of the bank.
We striped them both.
Oh, both.
As far as I know, I'd have to
On Main
look
Street
and
from
make sure.
Tandem to the bank?
Yeah, so going across the alleyway and then
Right.
on the other.
I think that's what
end.
Ian was asking.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I thought we usually did it just because it's the continuation of the sidewalk. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, we did them both.
Excellent. Any questions for Eric?
Eric, I
Yeah,
have a
just-
question.
Go ahead, Michelle.
The truck you were talking about, they screwed up the wire harness. Is that the place we bought the truck from and we have the warranty with?
Yeah, so G-Stones is where we bought the truck.
Mhm.
It was at Viking getting the equipment put on it. So when they wired something up, I don't know what it was, they ended up damaging the wiring harness somehow. So now it's back to G-Stones to get the wiring harness fixed, in which Viking is covering the cost of that, of course, because they did it. So they're covering the cost of that and whatever else potentially that it may have burned up after they put the new wiring harness in.
Okay, so G-Stones is really the one that we have the warranty with. It's not Viking.
It's not
It's gonna be under warranty.
No, that's not under warranty work. That's under Viking as far as repairing it.
Right, no, I understand that, but normal,
Yeah.
I was just thinking if Viking was the one that we bought the truck on and they were supposed to do the warranty work for, I was gonna be a little bit nervous about them doing any kind of work on the truck.
We do get a warranty with the equipment, and I think it's a year.
Okay.
And that's it. And
Okay.
the truck, I think we took it out for, if I remember right, I think it was 7 years.
Right, yeah, okay.
Truck.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you very much, Eric.
Hang on. You're continuing to mow roadsides. Are you making an effort to get where you can the poison parsnip, even though it might be a little wider than what we typically mow?
In places, Mike will get 3 passes in places where he can get
Yeah,
them safely,
Safely,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Generally, we're 2 passes wide. Most generally, that's our right of way. But if he can reach more, he usually tends to get out as far as he can to keep the brush and everything else down as well.
I just noticed like, lower hardscrabble hadn't made the pass yet. I assume he had now because I see he went up through, but there was poison parsnip everywhere and 2 passes would pretty much eliminate it all.
Yeah, I think, well, he went up there Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday. I don't know if he finished the second pass on lower hardscrabble. Maybe only 1 pass right now. We try to get around everything, at least 1 pass on the pavement before we start the second pass. And then, of course, we got the dirt to do as well. And, oh, one other thing. We got the boom mower this year for 2 weeks in August 8th through the 19th, I believe. 1 week they owe us for free. Anyways, Temco does, which HP Peerfield bought them out, so they're gonna honor that. And then I rented it for a week ourselves. So we'll have that boom mower for 2 weeks and we can do some guardrails and some pruning back and not have to rush. So,
And Eric, 2 years ago, we applied and you didn't get it, the Moncton Road grant,
yeah.
and you went up and did some patching last year, and this year you
This
did
year,
the north
from
end.
the other end. coming
Obviously,
this way.
we're not on the list to get that again.
I don't know. I don't think No, I don't think so.
Or you wouldn't have probably done that if you'd known it?
No. Not if we were on the list to get the paving grant for this year, no, I wouldn't have done the shim.
Okay, all right.
So, but I think that's it now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, let's move on. 7:22. Item 4, regular business. Number 1, dog nuisance public hearing. Greg and Vicky West.
Is anyone at the town office to represent them?
Negative.
Okay.
Anybody online that we can see? There are a number of people online this evening.
So I briefly summarized the situation in my TA report and posted a number of documents on the website describing the current situation. Bruce prepared a timeline of many of the complaints. There's a detailed description from a neighbor who experienced aggressive dogs on her property, and I also included a map that shows the relative locations of where the situations occurred. Bruce, you might want to jump in anytime. But given that the dogs remain, as far as I know, as of a week ago, they remain unregistered, and that this is not the first time around the block for this situation with this family. In my report, I recommend that they be required to install some form of detention device, a fence or what, within 1 week of this hearing. And if they don't, and if the dogs are at large again, one, that they be fined. I don't think they've been fined for many of these infractions.
No, they have not.
Yeah. And that the police department be authorized to confiscate the dogs and take them to homeward bound. And also demand that they be registered. And if they're not registered, fines should be issued, citations should be issued for each day that the dog is not registered after tonight's hearing, or a week after tonight's hearing, or whatever I said.
Okay.
Immediately.
Okay. So, Sharon, the dogs haven't been registered yet. Is that correct?
They have not.
Okay.
Actually, none of the dogs up where they are have been.
Right.
Okay. And it looks like in our ordinance we have fines of up to $500 for not registering.
Something like that.
Yep. Authorizing municipality to impose a civil penalty of up to $500 per violation. And I don't know if violation is per dog.
I would think so.
Okay. And they have 3 dogs, is that correct? As far as we know?
Yes, that's correct, as far as we know.
Okay. So that could potentially be $1,500 already. And that's not even dealing with the amount of time that the violation has been going on.
Hey, Val, just a second, Ian. Val, the map that you had given us, is that the location of the current incident, or is that
Yes.
the location of a prior incident?
Current, because they moved.
Okay, I was going to say I was expecting the Notch Road or up in that area.
Right. No, they moved to a different location. So I was
And
showing
these
the
are the same-
proximity of the different houses.
Okay, these are the same dogs that were in the prior incident.
No, these are different dogs.
Okay.
And one of them, a neighbor shot because the dog was on their property, and apparently, I think, if I'm correct, was being aggressive.
Okay. Do we have anyone attending this evening who lives on any of the surrounding properties? I see a few people on, but I don't know if people live in the surrounding area.
It doesn't look like any of the neighbors are with us.
Okay. Just wanted to check. Any incidences since your last report in your list, Bruce, which was in April?
There may have been 1 or 2 phone calls that we missed documentation, but that pretty much is when we were there that I know for certain. Did go last night for a different dog in that neighborhood.
Okay.
And I walked the dog home, but probably it's more accurate, the dog dragged me back to its house. But we were able to get it back there.
It's a good workout. Good.
It was. For 3 o'clock in the morning, it was a good workout.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Okay, board, what's your thoughts on this?
I want to add that the certified letter was received. We received the return receipt signed.
Okay. Beaker, Joel, Michelle, Darla?
So correct me if I'm wrong, when we went through this with them before, they didn't respond in any way, shape, or form either, did they?
Vicky attended 1 or 2 of the hearings. We've had more than 2. I think they didn't show up for the later ones.
Okay.
So I like the idea. I like the idea of giving them a week to get everything in order, and if they don't, then impose the fines for the dogs not being registered if they're not registered, and give Bruce the authority to compensate the dogs if they violate the ordinance.
Oh, I was almost going to say, give them notice that we say, okay, you need to put up a fence, or you need to put up something to secure them, but you have 24 hours to get them registered, or you're getting a fine, because they've had since April.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is not the first time they've told them they need to be registered.
Yeah, if all 3 aren't registered, I feel the same way, Michelle. I think it should be, those violations should be immediate.
Technically, the fines could be retroactive to when Bruce informed them, but I think we don't need to go there. One thing I hadn't completely thought through is, what if they don't build the containment, a fence or whatever within a week? Then what? I don't know. And the dogs don't run loose.
Well, if the dogs don't run loose, they're in compliance. If they leash them or if they hook them and they don't run loose, they're in compliance. But,
Okay.
And I would say a leash or a lead is a form of containment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we can't be specific. We just need a confinement. We can't say you need to put in a fence. We need to say confinement then.
Right.
Yeah, which is Valerie's suggestion of an appropriate detention device.
Yeah.
So I think what we're working with now is if the dogs violate the terms of the ordinance again, and then we have to. So then our decision is what happens if that happens, which I would say would be to seize the dogs. Unfortunately,
They get impounded.
yeah.
Yeah. I would agree.
Okay.
If I may add, although we have given them since March that I had mentioned that the dogs were not licensed, if you're going to give them a week to make sure that they're properly secured or whatever terminology you use, then I would ask that you give them that time for the licensing as well. There's a lot of things that have gone on in that area, and I just think that it would be show that we've gone above and beyond if we give them a week to take care of everything.
Okay. I think that sounds fair. In terms of the fine, what are people's thoughts? We have
That was my thoughts. If we're going to fine them, we ought to at least give them time to get them registered and
okay.
Because they may need shots.
Yeah.
They may need shots too.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see where Bruce is coming from, but man, they know that they have to be registered by April 1st every year. I don't know if they've ever registered these dogs, but I just feel like they're just taking advantage of the system.
But how many other dogs in town aren't registered? We haven't. We don't poll people for dogs anymore, do we? I know we used to.
Well, what I usually do is send out a postcard, and I haven't done it yet this year, to the ones who had dogs registered last year and they haven't registered them this year. There's quite a few that have not registered. I'm not even up to number 300 for dogs. So
okay.
Yeah, since COVID, Dog licenses have not been consistently renewed the way they should be.
Right.
Have the
When
West,
we,
sorry,
when,
no, go
when
ahead.
we encounter them for whatever reason, we inquire and then remind them that they need to get the dogs licensed.
Okay. Have the West ever registered their dogs?
These dogs that they have, they're less than a year old or about a year old. And I don't believe any of these three have been registered or licensed.
No,
They're-
but the previous ones, when they got in trouble, I think they licensed them 1 year when they were in trouble.
They
And then
did.
they got rid of them.
Well, we took one of them.
Yeah, and the other one, I think they got rid of it, went to Moncton or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can go either way. That was just my feeling. It's like,
Sure.
and you're taking advantage.
Okay.
Bruce, when you say they were aggressive to the neighbors, but the dogs didn't attack anyone, not that they're being aggressive, it's not, but nobody got bit and rabies and all that?
No, nobody was bit.
Not
The
yet.
dogs were within probably 4 or 5 inches on at least 2 occasions where they were that close to another person.
That can be pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Especially to a young kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the fine, what are people's thoughts? We have an up to $500 in our ordinance. Do we want to make it $500 per dog? Do we want to do a different amount?
I think you got to make it hurt.
Okay.
And
I'd
my
be
That's
other,
just
willing, I'd be willing to forego part of the fine if it's put towards a fence, not just a leash or a run, but a fence. But, you know.
Yeah, that gets. I know what you mean, Joel. And I think that's a good idea. It gets a little more complicated then because you're sort of juggling these multiple things within our ordinance. Yeah, because I'd like to see that too. I just feel without something like that, if it's just a leash,
Leashes fail.
right, and we'll just have more violations, and then we have to take the dogs. But I guess
Fences fail too. I mean,
Yeah.
dogs are clever.
yeah,
and I just wonder, I mean, I don't know the family. I don't know if financially, if that would be a strain, put up a fence, pay a fine. And I know that's part of it is you made the violation, you pay you pay the price, but
Right.
I'm wondering,
Well, I think if we give them the week, then they have no excuse for not getting the dogs registered and not at least having some sort of containment system, even if it is just a leash or a run to start.
the
Okay.
start. Yeah,
And,
I
and
agree.
then, like I said, with the caveat that if they're caught running at large, they'll be impounded
right.
and they'll
Okay.
lose the dog.
Whether they're registered or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they're not registered, they're going to get fined, and then
Right.
Right. Yeah. If they're at least tied out. I mean, I know, and I've mentioned this before, I got a quote to fence in my little yard here in town and it was $10,000. So a fence can be costly if we're
Yeah.
talking about a fine on top of that. I just don't want to make it, I want to be mindful of it as,
Yeah.
as a neighbor and whatnot.
yes.
As a townsperson. So that's just going through my mind, but within a week, if at least something can be done and they're registered.
Well, they can avoid the fine by registering them.
Well,
It's
exactly.
simple.
Right.
Exactly.
If
That
they
part.
choose not to register them, then they're making a choice.
And then they're making a choice. I agree.
An informed choice.
Okay, so we're setting. It's going to be a week, 7 days, or 7 business days. What do we want to decide? Just 7 days?
7 days.
7
7
calendar
days.
days. 7 calendar days.
7 calendar days from this
from notification.
from notification, which would be whenever. So that would notification certified mail. Is that correct?
Correct, and I'll do my best to get it out tomorrow.
Okay, so they would have until probably next Tuesday or Wednesday, let's say, and then
If they choose to pick it up, if they know it's come from the town, they can refuse it.
well, I hope they don't do that.
They can. I mean,
yeah.
I know a lot of people who do that.
Okay, So we're saying 7 days from notification, it'll be their dogs need to be registered, and if they're not registered within 7 days of that notification, it's a fine of $500 per dog. So a total of $1,500 in fines if they do not register within the week. Correct?
Yes, I think, that's the only way you're gonna get them to register the dogs.
Okay.
Agree.
Okay. So we have that. So that's that part. And then the second part would be, regardless of registration or not, if the dogs have another violation, are we saying the dogs will be impounded? What do we?
Yes.
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 And this is based on prior violations and prior incidents with those dogs. If this was like only once that it had happened, we may not say that. But because this has happened multiple times, this is sort of the last we want to hear about this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that seems fair, and I do agree with Darla. I think the fencing requiring that within a week, even if the resources were available, I think would be difficult anyway. And it can be an expensive thing. I think if they're able to keep the dogs leashed in one way or another, in any kind of form that just keeps the dogs on their property and doesn't allow them to wander to other properties, I think that seems fair. And if they don't, they're in violation. And then if they need to register the dogs within our week timeline.
If I could just mention one thing, I will give them credit. They have been more diligent about the dogs. The last time that one of the dogs got out, it's when somebody went to open the door, the dog ran out.
Okay.
And more mindful, it just seems to be, it's still occurring.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if the dog is wily and just escapes, that's different than them not thinking about it, perhaps,
But but the other side of that is if a dog escapes and they go after it, that can be seen in a different light than the dog escapes and they just let it go.
Right, that's true.
I would assume that if Bruce went up and the dog was on the neighbor's property and the owner was there trying to get it back, he'd be a little more lenient than if he went up and nobody was around.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
We're chasing it with a leash and saying, I'm trying to catch it.
Okay. So everyone's in agreement in terms of our $1,500 fine for the registration, and then if another violation happens, the dogs are impounded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You want a motion to that effect? So moved.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Michelle seconded. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. So you'll send that letter out tomorrow, Val? If you're
I'll do my best to get it out tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm tied up in meetings a good chunk of the day.
Yeah. I mean, if you are unable to get it out and it's the next day, that's fine. That gives them that one extra day.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm hoping that they respond to this and obviously get all 3 dogs licensed and don't have to pay that fine. And hopefully we won't hear from Bruce again with regard to violations.
I can also communicate sooner to them because it'll take some time for the letter to arrive to them,
Okay.
but I'll also send it by email.
Okay.
I think that would be advisable. At least that way they get it and
Right.
and they know it's coming.
Right.
And I mean, just because they don't pick it up doesn't mean they don't know what it is. So
Mhm.
Do we have email addresses for them and they've responded?
I do have an email for Vicky and it didn't bounce, so I presume it's a current email address.
Have you ever received correspondence from her via email?
Not lately.
Okay.
In the previous rounds of this, I did.
Okay. Does the town also make calls to residents with
I
these kind
have.
of issues? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we want to. It's obviously there's an expense that might be coming up for them, And so it's for us to let them know in any way we can to prepare them if they don't register. So, okay. Thanks very much, Val. Thank you, Bruce. All right, let's move on. Item 2, consider request from the police department for authorization to purchase a new 2022 Dodge Charger and trade in the 2014 Ford Explorer. Okay, Bruce, you are up.
So we're at the point that the 2014 is due for replacement. As you can see that by moving to 3 vehicles and working on a maintenance program that keeps these vehicles in better condition, we actually have a little more value in this vehicle than the past few vehicles that we've turned in or turned over or tried to sell. So the only available vehicle at this time is a Dodge Charger, and that's from Keystone. As we all have probably heard or experienced, shortage of vehicles, and the next time to get a vehicle would be next year. The 2014, if we were to invest, we would have to invest some money into it if we were to keep it. I just think it's the right time to trade it in while it's still worth something. And what needs to be repaired, they obviously have looked at it, they know. So
And you're good with a vehicle that's not all-wheel drive?
it's all-wheel drive.
What is all-wheel drive?
Yes, I wouldn't purchase it if it wasn't all-wheel drive.
And Bruce, the other two, what is the other Explorer? What year?
2018.
The truck is a
2020.
2020.
It's every 2 years.
What's that?
Every 2 years we buy a vehicle.
Well, I thought we were under the impression when we went when we bought the truck that we were going to keep the 14 just to use it as it was a spare, but when it needed a lot of money, we weren't going to trade it. And the 18 isn't 5 years old yet. That's when we usually trade them. And I thought the 18 is 4 years old.
6 years old. By going to the 4th position, which we have that grant funded position, we are going to benefit of having 3 vehicles, backing up the miles and wearing them down to the point that we are repairing them for the last 2 years.
We've had this conversation before, and we moved to keep the 3rd one.
Yes.
I
Yes,
don't
we
remember if you were, because you brought this up before. I don't know if you were at that meeting or you missed that meeting, or because I know you brought it up before. And
I was late when you bought the truck, yes, but I thought we were under the impression we'd keep the 3rd one to go to court and this and thing, but not as much patrolling with it. And when it needed to go, it goes. But we'd still trade a vehicle every 5 years.
We're on a 3 year.
We were on 3 years, and I'm proposing we go to 2 years. So when we get to the life of these vehicles, they have more value to them. And as you can see with this vehicle, within 2 years, we went from getting $100 or $1,000 for a vehicle to $6,000. We've changed the maintenance program to assure that these vehicles are maintained properly or as well as can be. So our expenses when it comes to repairs are down, and the vehicles last for the useful life that we need them. And then when we trade them in, we actually get something.
I'm not disputing any of what you said, was just, I'm worrying about, it's more money coming out of the budget because we were on a 5-year replacement schedule.
We're on a
5-year.
We're on a 6-year replacement schedule, a vehicle every 2 years. Correct?
Correct.
But that was when I thought we moved it to a 6 to a 5-year period.
No, we went from an 8.
When we went to two.
We went from an 8 to a.
To a 6.
We went to 8 to a 6.
My concern is, other costs. We're trying to put you into a police department of our own and not pay $50,000 a year in rent. I just watching the news tonight, and the state police are starting telling towns that in Chittenden County, so it'll trickle south eventually, that they're not going to start doing dispatching. You know, what if you had to have dispatching done by where we do it, fire department with Shelburne at $4,000 hours is? Yours might be anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. Where are these costs? Where are these things budgeted in the budget if they come down the road? And that's what worries.
The dispatch hasn't been settled yet. They're doing a study that the people that are conducting the study or the survey or whatever terminology they're using, they have to get back to the state legislators by 2023 on what they find out. I can assure you that even if we had to get dispatching somewhere else, we do most of our own dispatching, self-dispatching. We enter our own cases. We're doing our own traffic stops. Even though I find that to be a safety issue, I'm still doing as much as I can to alleviate the issue with dispatch. So
I realize that, but you're not answering the phone.
Right. I would hope that if we got to that point, the townspeople would step up and say to the state, this is wrong. This is a statewide service that should be borne by statewide, and not just because your town has a police department, we're going to charge you more for it. Because, yeah, frankly, if they get too much and it gets to the point you can't afford a police department, you won't have to worry. They won't have to worry about answering phones. They'll be answering everything. So
Well,
I'm not,
you're preaching to the choir. I don't think the legislature I keep seeing the state police are dropping towns. I mean, they dropped Williston. They're not doing 60 hours a week with Williston anymore. Essex now, it said on the news tonight, started it July 1, it's taking over. There's only still 600 people that pay this bill, that pay this police department. And that taxpayers, my taxpayer bill is about $850. My taxes just to cover the police department, my taxes. Yeah, the biggest one, they're on the hill and up on Mount Street. But my concern is just more of the cost and how we're going to find to pay for it. That's it. So.
Well, I think if you look at the past, 4 years, we have been extremely diligent on being fiscally responsible at the police department.
Bruce, I don't doubt that a bit.
So, and we'll continue to do that. And we're always looking for ways to increase, revenue, whether if we're still continuing to do stuff with the school, we're getting revenue from them. I understand it. I talk to people. I get that it's this service is expensive because it is a service. I think it's needed. I think we have support, and at some point, hopefully, we can convince the people in the town to accept this as townwide, which would help alleviate some of the burden on those in the village.
Well, we've been down that road, and I've been on that same traffic on that same committee a number of times, and that don't seem to fly.
Let's go back to talking about the car. So the vehicle.
Valerie's got a hand up there, Ian.
Oh, go ahead.
And Darla makes a really good segue for my comment that we have a police vehicle reserve fund, and we've planned out through the capital vehicle replacement plan that there is money in that fund that gets allocated every year. So and this falls within that the budget of the reserve fund. And as Bruce pointed out, when the vehicles get traded in sooner, there's a higher resale value.
It is our plan. It's our capital plan, our capital vehicle plan.
Correct.
So it's no different than the capital vehicle plan for the highway or the fire department.
Right. And the main reason why the price of the vehicles is projected to increase, going down, is because we are anticipating switching to electric vehicles, which at the moment are a little bit more expensive than traditional vehicles. But that could change too. But we're still already anticipating that and budgeting for it.
I was just going to say that I thought, looking at the price of this vehicle, that we were going to have to put, even though we're increasing it next year, I was thinking we were going to have to increase that a little bit more in order to keep up.
And I did just want to say, Joel, I appreciate you asking the question, I mean, clearly, if it's on your mind and you had that confusion, other folks listening might have had it too. So I wasn't trying to cut you off in that. I was just trying to come back to the topic.
No, thank you.
So I move we allow the police department to purchase a new vehicle from G Stones.
Okay, we have a motion.
Is it
A second.
G-Stones or Stones?
It's Stones, sorry. Stones Chrysler.
Okay.
DDJR.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Darla seconded.
Okay. Further discussion. I have a question. So we've got our amount, looking at the amount that they gave us in the invoice, and we have our 6,000 trade. Is there additional costs in terms of fitting out the vehicle?
The only thing that we'll have to get is lights for it. All the other equipment is either in the vehicle or we can take it out of the 14 and put it into this vehicle.
Okay. What color is the vehicle?
I believe it's black.
Okay. And will it have the same decals that the other vehicles
Yes.
have? Okay.
All the vehicles will have the same size lettering with the same decals.
Okay. Excellent. Any further questions regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a look here. 753. Item 3, consider approval of contract for engineering services for the Lincoln Road Riverbank Stabilization Project. Include deliberation and executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully folks had a chance to review the information that's online and in the report. This Lincoln Road project has been on the Select Board's radar and the Highway Department's radar for quite some time. And a while back, the Select Board authorized me to reach out to SLR Engineering for a quote to deal with the washouts on the riverbank along Lincoln Road. And we have this project is supported through a grant through VTrans that'll pay up to $175,000 of a project that's estimated to be around $300,000, but it's hard to know for sure. So, and SLR Engineering is the firm that's working on the Universal Fishing Platform. So they are very familiar with that stretch of the river and Lincoln Road and the dynamics of the river. So I did reach out to them and I prepared a scope of work based upon best information that I had available. And included online is their proposal. And bottom line, they propose, and this is within their proposal. Cost proposal is within what was estimated in the grant application, and a copy of the grant application was also included online just for a frame of reference. So their bid is $51,950. And multiple includes design, bidding, construction management, inspections, permitting, soup to nuts.
Okay, any questions about the proposal?
And Roy is tuned in on Zoom.
Great.
I
Good
guess
evening.
I have a couple of questions, Ian.
Okay.
And I'm actually gonna turn my head to the three gentlemen in the room here, who are all been on the board. Douglas and Peter were on the board. How many times this road been moved or pushed over and pushed back in that section of River Road on Lincoln Road? You've been involved there for 30 years, moving that road back and forth. I hate to say anything, Roy, I don't know who you are, but is it gonna do any good? If Mother Nature wants to move it, she's gonna move it? And
I
is
think-
the engineering gonna?
Well, it has to be, in order to get the V-Trans grant, when we met with Ashley, it has to be engineered.
Okay,
And then the permitting process is something that we don't want to deal with as a town. We want
okay.
somebody familiar with that to deal with it. In looking at it, there's a they've changed the way they do things. There's about a 6-foot key down through there that, or a 6-foot swath that sits on the ledge that's not keyed in any way. And it's either going to end up having to be pinned or I would like to see it filled over to the piece of ledge that's there. And that would hold what's happening is that little swath, the water comes down through, hooks one of those rocks out, and then they all fall.
Because in Irene, I was up there when I watched the road keep going and going and going, and I had to go around Lincoln time to get home. And so.
Yeah, I think one of the spots has been that way, that we got included in the grant. One of the spots we've looked at how many years now? I think we might even looked at it when you were on board.
Yeah,
up in front of Murphy's driveway where it slid.
It's been 10 years or so.
I mean, I'm not against doing it, but it seems like, Mother Nature's going to come down through there with the amount of rain.
My concern is Mother Nature coming down through there. Right now we have a void there and Mother Nature deciding to get in behind it and we lose everything. That's my biggest concern.
Okay. No, I'm not against it. I just wanted to ask some questions.
Sure. So in the past, has anything, in terms of repairs to this area, has anything been engineered before? Like at this kind of level?
Actually, it's been emergencies and we've just gone in and repaired it.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
But I think, as with anything, we've learned over the years that, the biggest thing is it's setting on ledge and there's nothing to stop one of the rocks from sliding out on the bottom and then gravity takes over. And I think that's,
You mean
that's
the river on the ledge or
the wall is on the cripping is on the ledge and there's nothing to stop it from sliding into the river.
So is this kind of like what they're doing on 125 and Ripton?
Similar, yeah. I'm assuming, I don't know what Roy is.
Yeah, if I can jump in, I'm here with my coworker Brian, and I've talked to a structural engineer who's helped us with some bank stabilizations in a similar setting, rock on ledge, and like pinning and grouting, and I think there's going to be more than just rock sitting here or extending out. There's going to be something to fasten the bottom, just because in this spot the river has so much energy to move the rock. And we did do some consulting about Route 125, and they are doing some pinning in some of this over steepened areas around the bends, like I believe it's called Murphy's Corner up Route 125. So some similar methods, and so our thought would be to come up with a couple alternatives. The issue is the pinning. It's a bit more labor, it could drive the cost of the project up. So there's going to be a balance of like the grouting and pinning versus using gravity and trying to wedge the rock in between other pieces of ledge that are in the area. So we'll look at those details as best we can without, with the current site. And then, as Valerie said, part of our contract is to work with a contractor after a bid process and implement the design the proper way. So, that's kind of when you'll get a really good view of it and make sure those details are set to pin the rock or anchor the rock in a suitable way to resist the scour there. So.
Yeah, the concern with anchoring was that A&R might not let you go into the stream bed to do that. Although they've been a lot more lenient where you've got a spot where the water's speeding up because it's narrow, flattening it out. And I know they're doing it on 125 on Big Bend there, the corner the last time after Irene, the floor of the river 8 feet to flatten it out because it was such a V that by the time the water got to flood stage, it was moving so fast, it didn't matter what.
That's exactly right. And I think the state has allowed pinning and pressure and like grouting, filling voids so water can't get under if it's a trade-off to filling out into the river when then you're driving the velocities up and you get more erosion. So there's a balance to strike there. And, we've got a good relationship with the stream alteration engineers and the regulators at A&R. So permitting is part of the scope. So we feel like we can come up with a good design approach and then, work through permitting with them and do some reviews. So.
Roy, you mentioned the cost after doing design and stuff could be more money. And Valerie, what if this goes from 300,000 to 600,000? And V-Trans is going to give us 175. We don't have 425,000 sitting in the Capitol Road. What do we do? Not do the project? Or we wait for an Irene another 10 years and we only have to pay 2% of the wash the whole road out? I don't mean that as being wise guy, but I mean, when Irene took it all out, it was all under FEMA and road was put back to the best knowledge and not design, but it was put back. What if it doubles in price and we don't have the money to do this?
You're muted, Al.
Yeah, there's a split second when you realize that, and then you have to reach for the button. But Joel, that is a good question. We have a road reserve fund that we are increasing the contribution to, or we're beginning to. There may be undesignated fund balance that we can tap into, other grant funding, that ARPA funds. I haven't heard back yet from Ross. Well, he's out of office until Wednesday. Whether ARPA funds could be used to match. I believe they can, but I'm looking for assurance. And if I don't, depending on if the select board wants to use ARPA funding for that.
I mean, because I know we talked about the Basin Street, and you've gotten some really good grants for Basin Street. You know,
Right.
the curve and the bad hill, and we were going to reach into that Capitol Roads. Well,
Basin Street's going to be multi-years, so we won't be tapping into the Capital Road Fund for a while.
Just wondered, did we plan on, one day I was on vacation, did you guys plant a money tree around here somewhere?
Oh, yeah. Couple of them.
Because we seem to be picking it in the last couple of months, so.
Darla,
Just want to know, we had money, we keep saying that capital reserve, and I don't know, it was a couple 100,000 there. But it's going to go fast.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I just had a question for Roy. I know that the deadline for this is December 2023. Do you see that as being a timeline that you can work within?
Yeah, as part of this scoping exercise, we prepared a schedule, and we feel like I'll just lay it out roughly, collect data this field season and when the water levels are low, work on the design towards the end of the year, submit permits. There's a review period in there. Put the project out. If everything agrees and the money all lines up, put the project out to bid very early, probably February, March-ish, and then the project would be built next construction season.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And also, before the project is advertised for bid, there would be some preliminary cost estimates. The select board can decide then whether, depending on what those numbers are, we can do some budget estimating, budget figuring.
And we'll have a design. We'll have a design, and if we can't afford it, we'll have to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be an alternative. I mean, we can continue the emergency repair just for, the rest of time, or we get something engineered that will actually stay, hopefully, in place, and then we won't have more serious problems in the future.
And also, the state of Vermont is for lack of a better term, loaded with transportation funding.
Right.
And there's a real possibility that we could apply for additional grant funding for this. If in fact there is a real danger that the cost would exceed what we expect.
So what is the question here is whether we want to hire them or not?
Correct. And one reason why the select board authorized just going out to solicit a quote rather than putting it out to bid is because it's time sensitive. We've lost some time due to other things, and because of their familiarity with the river and their experience, it seemed like a really good fit.
So will the funds for the engineer come from the grant?
It's an 80% grant, I believe. So 80% of it would come from the grant.
Yeah, Ashley said that everything is eligible. All the expenses are eligible. The engineering, the construction, the permitting, everything is eligible through the grant.
Okay. Any other questions about this? So what are your thoughts, board? Do I have a motion?
I am moved that we authorize them to implementation for us.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I apologize, I don't know the name of your firm, or otherwise I would have said that.
SLR. I see, so that's SLR Engineering.
I will by the time we're done.
Right. Good. All right. We've got a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Roy. Thank you, Val.
Roy and Brian, I'll follow up with you either tomorrow or the next day to talk about logistics. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right. 8:08. Item 4, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding update.
Like last week, there's nothing specific to provide an update about. There isn't really any new news. The committee's meeting next Monday. We haven't worked out the agenda yet, but I expect most of it will focus on the logistics of the public outreach methods that are being discussed. I'm also continuing to work on the updating the matrix. I know that some folks have wanted to see a copy of the matrix or have a link to it, and I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will. I don't know that the details of the matrix are going to be discussed at Monday's meeting because that could be get lost in the weeds. But anyway, that's in progress.
Hey Val, are you, just a quick question, are you keeping track of, like, we keep saying we can use ARPA funds, like just for this last thing we were talking about, we could use ARPA funds for different projects. Are you keeping track of all of that somewhere? Because I mean, at some point we have to submit something to the committee,
right,
of what the select board projects we're considering.
I am keeping track of that. Just about anything the town wants to do, the ARPA funds can be used for.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we keep saying we can use ARPA funds, we're going to be out of our 1 point whatever million.
Oh yeah,
just done.
Yeah. Well, the select board, I don't know, might choose not to use ARPA funds for some of these things.
Yeah.
Have there been any updates from the board with regard to materials, design of those materials that we're going to be sending out, or that the board will be sending out, rather?
I think we'll get a handle on that on Monday.
Okay. Excellent. All righty. Let's see here. 8:10. Appointment or reappointment of town officers. We have a lister position, and Doug Corkins is at
And
the
he
town
is here.
office. And he is here. Fantastic. Doug, why don't you come to the table so we can all see you?
Let's see.
I thought you were joking. Oh.
All right. Hi, Doug. So interested in the lister position?
Yeah, I got roped into it by Mark Bouvier.
Good. Honesty. That's great.
Is that considered interest?
Kind of like back in '93 when someone stopped at my house or on a job site. You and Ken Weston asked me if I got roped into it, and I stayed 15 years. So that's the minimum. You got to stay 15 years. That's a minimum.
Is that true?
Yeah. And you showed up.
Reconsider.
Yeah.
Well, you sat at this table for 20 odd years. What's
No,
another
no.
15?
No, 18.
18?
Go on, speak.
So Mark was driving by and he drove by me, and then he stopped, backed up, and he said, "Hey, you interested in filling in a lister position?" And I said, "Well, I'm willing to think about it." And we talked, and I said, "Sure."
I make a motion, we appoint Doug as the lister then.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second.
2 years, so I have a chance after that amount of time to back out.
You have.
All right.
Everybody from resigning.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion before Doug backs out?
Pat, I see that Pat King is on the Zoom, and I'm wondering if Pat has any questions or anything to put out there.
Oh, there's Pat.
Down the bottom, middle, the
Or maybe not.
I say welcome aboard.
There we go.
We go.
All
That's
right.
very nice.
Thank you. All right. Any further
Well, that
discussion?
was easy.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Yeah. Let's wait on that vote. All right. All those in favor to appoint Doug as lister, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries.
So,
And that's only until he
Cameron, I
runs
had
again. He
Right.
runs in March.
sorry?
This coming March.
Yeah,
Correct.
his appointment will only be until, he'll have to run in March for,
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
2023, so
yeah.
learning
Right.
curve, then you say, no, I don't want to do this, you don't have.
So just a thought, when I was on the select board, I had an easy button that came from
Staples.
Staples. And so every time there was a question, I'd go, or we vote on something, I'd hit the easy button. That was easy.
That was easy. This one was easy.
And he did. He's not fibbing.
Okay.
That was
thanks.
just before
Great.
Zoom.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised Zoom doesn't have that. Thank you very much, Doug.
You're welcome.
I have an easy button in my basement if you guys want me to bring it in.
Oh yes, that would be good. All right. Moving on. Item 6, review and approval of the September 13th, 2021 meeting minutes. Did anyone have a chance to look at those this afternoon?
I looked at the first part of them. I had to, I went through your marked up copies first and thoroughly confused myself, Valerie, and then found the one that the other one. But I only went through the first couple of pages. I did not have any corrections.
I
Okay.
haven't gone through them yet, so
Do we want to wait or do we want to approve as?
I'll
Well,
probably
folks
get a
have-
chance to go through them this week, but
Okay. So we'll maybe push that until our next official select board meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Because I know you had a bunch of sort of comments on those, Val, so we'll make sure that they're addressed. Okay. Item 7, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor licenses.
There are no liquor licenses and the warrant is for $314,764,000.39, which includes the fire department bond payment and also includes capital paving.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I just have a question, and Bruce is on still, or Sharon. Bruce, what's the 1,800 for non-district services?
That's for when they go to calls outside of the village.
That was for a quarter's worth. We were doing it monthly, but we got behind, so I
Oh, so paying the
calls
police.
for the quarter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There's a check going out of the police department for 1,800.
No, we're paying the
No.
police department.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8, select board roundtable. Darla.
Just wanted to give a shout out to the 4th of July committee it was great to have them back. And Meredith tooted her own horn, but they were great and they were a big hit down here at the beginning of the parade anyway. Maybe they were tired at the other end, but they looked good when they went by here. I think that's all that I have. Just a thank you for the 4th of July, folks.
Okay. Michelle.
I was going to say the same thing. Thank you to the 4th of July committee. They did a good job. I mean, for the new year, the outhouse races were a lot of fun to watch. So it was a good time. And Bruce, if I knew you needed some volunteers, I would have volunteered because I was just sitting watching.
All right. Joel.
Just a couple of things. Valerie, any update on the Pine Street water line?
The loan has been submitted. It's in review by the agency. And apparently I believe they have finished their review of the engineering contract. This all happened while I was out of the office last week. And so they are looking for an executed copy of the contract. So the engineer needs to send me a final copy. And I don't think that's happened yet. But I also haven't finished going through all my emails.
So does Stephen, the new engineer, and you think that maybe spring, early summer of 23, there'll be equipment on that street and digging, or?
Well, we're aiming for either November or March bond vote. I think November.
Oh, boy.
I think.
Okay.
So that would be
That'd be good. Okay, and then on another subject, you all see Front Porch Farm. You probably noticed all the flags, Bruce, are gone now. All those flags that a mysterious person has put out for years along the parade route. I saw a lot of on Front Porch Farm. People thought they should be picked up because they were made out of plastic and not good for the environment. Well, there's 70 of them sitting in my garage. I picked them all up the other night. I bombed them all up, and I will get them to the owner who puts them out and put them out next year, so you won't have to buy as many.
Or you can also give a few to the Bristol Rescue Squad because they were looking for some on July 3rd.
No, so that's where they are. They're all picked up.
Good. Thank you for
They
doing
didn't
it.
go on
Joel.
anybody. Come off. If they pulled them off the edge of the street and put them in their flower beds, I left them. But just the ones along the road, I picked them all up.
All right. Anything else, Joel? All right, Peeker.
I'd like to shout out to Bruce for marching in the parade. I thought that was a real nice touch that he led us around instead of driving his cruiser. I think it just shows his commitment to this community and his willingness to give and give and give. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
I agree. I have a good picture that I took, Bruce. I'll send it to you. And for me, the audit. Any update on the audit?
Yes, that was going to be part of my report, but I can skip to it now. We did receive the draft audit, and today, just this afternoon, we met with the auditors, two of the auditors, myself, Anthony, and Peter, and went through a lot of they have a lot of questions, and we had some questions too. And so we went through it practically page by page, and they're going to follow up with Anthony, I believe, next week on certain topics, or maybe later this week. And we didn't set a date for when they plan to have a final audit document to us, but we did talk about them getting prepared for the fiscal 22 audit. And so they're planning to come here in August to begin the pre-planning for the FY22 audit. So we're closing in on a final audit for FY21.
Oh God, it's taken a year to start one and end one.
I know. Well, because it was their first year with us, and our first year with them, and the whole weird transition of personnel all happening at the same time. It was challenging for everybody.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts in terms of how their document compares to past auditors?
Theirs is very thorough.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had questions about why certain things were allocated a certain way that didn't seem to be handled the same way in the previous audits.
Okay.
And so we are still working through that.
Okay.
Did they come with a ton of recommendations like the previous auditor, or are they pretty happy with the way
Not
they do
yet.
things?
The management letter, that hasn't been written yet, and we talked about that too. So they won't be too hard on us.
Okay. Can you share that, or do you want to wait till a certain point to share with?
You mean the draft audit?
Yeah. Or would you prefer to wait until questions are answered before sharing with the select board?
It depends on what level of information you want. Whether you want to spend your time going through this draft document or wait until the final document.
I'd rather wait for the final.
Yeah. That's fine. Okay, good. Well, that's good news.
Yes, it is.
All right,
And they were very easy to work with, so that
Good.
was nice.
excellent. Anything more for your town administrator's report, Val?
Oh, I guess we're there. Where is it? So I was going to mention that. There was also a West Street project, slope project construction meeting this morning. That was nice and productive. The engineer and the inspection engineer, so the design engineer and the inspection engineer are both very pleased so far with the progress of the project. The slope has been entirely cleared and stabilized with seed and matting, and they're working on the toe part of the project. Will be myself and some of the other folks will be meeting with the LaRoses tomorrow, because they have some concerns about how the pathway was installed in the slope. They felt that it's perhaps it was a bit too premature, put in too early before the slope was able to be stabilized. But at the meeting this morning, the engineer felt that this slope is pretty stable. Vegetation is already beginning to poke through, so they thought it looked good. So we'll see what tomorrow's meeting brings.
Okay, that's good news.
And also, I can report that we have 3 candidates for the Public Works position. Eric doesn't know that yet. We haven't had time, but between his vacation and my being out last week, we haven't had a chance to really coordinate. And we also need to coordinate on the final inspection of the sidewalk project. That was part of the deal, that he and I need to do a final inspection, and we can invite the contractor up from Connecticut if he wants to participate, but we haven't coordinated that date and time yet.
Okay. Alrighty.
Yep, that was it.
Item 5, other business, correspondence reports, correspondence received.
In that section, there is a link online to the annual inspection of the septic system, and it identifies a number of areas that need some attention, maintenance attention, replacement attention, and also in the other business is the communication. Actually, in my TA report, I mentioned that Jill and I met with John Kiernan of RCAP Solutions, who has offered their services at no charge to the town to come up with a capital plan for the septic system. And so this inspection report will be very helpful in informing what that capital plan might need to look like. And he'll also look at the rate structure. Is it adequate to meet a potential capital plan? So he's going to try to have something completed by the end of August.
Okay, excellent. And I see
Yeah.
we have received a grant.
It's not a grant. They received the grant to provide the funding to provide their services to us. So they're obligated to produce something by the end of August.
Okay, good.
I see we got our education tax rate too.
Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty. Executive session. Do we have anything this evening?
I was trying to remember. I think we had something
Joel
we
says
needed
yes.
to talk.
Eric's got something he'd like to say to Bruce.
In executive session?
No.
Oh,
If I can right now, I'd just like to thank Bruce and the police department for picking up the barricades and signs after the raid on Monday. It was very helpful for me, so thank you very much.
You guys help us out, so we're just returning the favor.
We can help you out on a new car too.
all right. So we yes to executive session or no?
I think you told us, I know what we have, Val, but we do have an executive
This
session.
is something that we needed to follow up on from the last meeting, and I'm drawing a total blank on it.
There's also a contract.
Okay. So do you want to do the honors, Michelle?
I make a motion that we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters and contract negotiations per 1 VSA section 313.
Okay.
And I invite, am I inviting somebody in or not? Eric doesn't have to come in, right?
I hope not.
Well, no, for some reason I thought you said you had something.
Well, I think it did have something related to the Public Works personnel, perhaps. Does anyone else remember?
I don't.
It's terrible. We all got advanced onset Alzheimer's here.
Peter, was it to do with the?
We'll invite Eric in and then we can decide.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do that. All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Motion second. All those in favor? Sorry, Joel. Yep.
Should have brought on the concerns, I'm sorry, but
That's
the
okay.
meeting not being taped tonight,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
well, last week it wasn't.
We're
you know,
recording.
I had for
We weren't
people,
here last week.
2 weeks ago, Michelle, sorry.
Okay.
2 weeks ago, it wasn't on TV, they said.
Oh, I think a couple of occasions Sean isn't able to get to it because he was covering school meetings.
Right.
And so they can
Yeah.
only do, even though it's school has Zoom now and they have the OWL, the
Got a
way that
text
he
when I got
records
home.
it and
Hey, meeting's
broadcasts
on.
it. But it is recorded and then it will go up on the video on demand for NEAT, so people can watch
I
it.
got a text about 8:30 2 Monday nights ago. It said, hey, Joel, the meeting's not on TV.
Well, it won't
Okay.
be on tonight either because I don't see Sean here.
Yeah, I think because he's covering school stuff. I can reach out to Mary and ask about that.
Just ask.
Okay, no, if people want to watch it, that's good. We want that. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Bye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. We are in executive session. Thank you very much, everyone, for
Night,
joining us this
everybody.
evening.
All right.
Good night.